Because if you have the mindset, if you're motivated to do what you want to do to get something done, you'll find a way to do it. You'll find a way to get the knowledge. Now, the Great Resignation is, in my opinion, it's a symptom of a larger, deeper issue, right? And that is a failure at leadership for the last 30, 40, 50 years. My coaching is 90% mindset. So it's really about how do you see situations? How do you change perspectives and see things from different lenses, really?
Hello, and welcome back to Klik TV. This is where we speak with businesses to discuss the ways they leverage technology for business success. My name's Karin Weiss, and it is my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Dhru Beeharilal, founder and principal of Nayan Leadership. Hey, Dhru.
Karin, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks so much for coming today. It's awesome to have you here. I'd love it if we could start by you just telling me a little bit about yourself and your role at Nayan.
Yeah, so I founded Nayan in 2018. It was the second coaching company that I've founded and owned. The first one was focused on kind of more the professional development, kind of like career building, career coaching, life coaching type stuff. This is much more focused on executives and leadership in organizations and business coaching. So yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of it right now. I have a couple coaches that work for me, which is great. And so, yeah, we provide leadership solutions to organizations and help them with whatever they're dealing with, whether it's team dynamics, whether it's leadership across the organization, strategy, DEI, organizational culture.
Awesome. It's so fundamental, and I can see the value that you're able to bring in to different businesses. Besides that, what do you do outside of work?
What don't I do? So I dabble in photography. It's a lot of fun for me. I do graphic design. I do some, graphics in general, drawing, that kind of stuff. I write. I wrote a novel. So yeah, published. I'm going to be at Comic-Con this weekend here in Baltimore, actually, for the novel, which is awesome. I also have a social media digital marketing company that I use this is a resource for my clients. So, and that's why I started that, actually, was because a lot of my clients needed that support. And so I started it pretty much for that support for my clients.
So what kind of businesses do you help?
All kinds of businesses, frankly. So I always say Nayan has two unofficial arms. The one side is a business coaching, which I do for small businesses, small, medium, anywhere from solopreneurs all the way up to like 15, 20 employees. And then that's where I work directly with the business owner, help them kind of understand where they're limiting themselves, how are they holding themselves back? Because ultimately at that stage, especially, owners are their limiting factor for their business, right? And their vision and their ability to delegate.
Yeah, and it can be hard to see sometimes looking in the mirror. You need.
Absolutely. And that's funny you say that, because Nayan actually means eyes in Hindi. And that's why I named it that, because it's about awareness. It's the more building, you can't change something you can't see, right? So until you're aware of what the issues actually are in your company and yourself, you can't do anything to change that. Also my nephew's name. I named him, so it's pretty cool.
That's really cool. So many areas of connection. So how do you help individuals who are just starting their first business?
Great question. So one of the biggest challenges with people starting businesses, especially nowadays, it's sensationalized, this idea of like, oh, start your business. You don't like your job? Start a business. I think that's fine for side hustles, but when you're starting an actual business, there are a lot of things you have to consider, right? One of which is the mindset of a business owner, which people don't think about at all. It's very different being an employee versus being a business owner.
Absolutely.
And relying on other people to do everything else that they don't know behind the scenes happens for businesses. Well, now you're giving up one full-time job and giving yourself 8.
Yeah.
Right. And so the time commitment, the energy commitment, picking the right partners if you choose to have partners, getting the right vendors in place, knowing who the vendors are, and not just buying stuff off the shelf because, that person made a good sales pitch. There's so many things that business owners don't know what to do.
Well, there's a reason why such a high percentage of businesses fail in their first year. So it sounds like you're helping folks avoid common pitfalls.
Absolutely. And also more deeply helping them to understand whether they need to be a business owner or not. And some people it's not made for them. Not to judge, it's not a bad thing.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Not everyone's meant to be a leader, frankly, right? If everyone's a leader, then who does the work? It was like following, right?
Exactly. So how has technology influenced the functionality of your business?
So I could not run my business without technology, frankly. I mean, pre-pandemic, I started my business in 2018, and before that, the other one, I was meeting people in person all the time, right? So driving around the Beltway, seeing people around this area, and everything was local. I had maybe 1 or 2 clients that were not immediate vicinity, and that's why I used Zoom for. but otherwise it was 90% in person. Pandemic happens and Zoom becomes a really, really big thing across the board. And that allows me to do it right now because most of my clients are not even in person at all. Even the local ones, right? They will still want to stay at home and be where they are. Once in a while we meet for lunch, something like that. But typically I'm meeting people on Zoom all the time. And that allows me to have clients all over the world.
All over. Right. Well, and then also you're not wasting time on the Beltway when you can be having more meetings, right? And
absolutely.
It's keeping that hybrid, which I think we've all benefited from. Can you tell me a little about how the power of mindset influences your coaching?
Absolutely. My coaching is 90% mindset. So it's really about how do you see situations? How do you change perspectives and see things from different lenses, really, right? And I use that lowered lenses because I do photography. It's a good parallel, a good metaphor,
absolutely.
Right? But it's cool to see people kind of make that shift for themselves where they transform from a leader who saw things from one perspective, theirs, to saying, okay, well, how can I see this from different points of view?
Right.
Right. And if you allow them to get that, they can get out of their own way. They can see themselves from a different perspective and say, well, here's something I really want to work on. Here's something I really want to do. Honestly, the biggest determination of success is not skill set, right? Yeah. It's mindset. Because if you have the mindset, if you're motivated to do what you want to do to get something done, you'll find a way to do it. You'll find a way to get the knowledge.
Agree 100%.
So much free knowledge out there right now with YouTube, with all these other things. There's so many opportunities to find free knowledge. If you want that knowledge, you'll find it. But you can train someone, give them all the training in the world, spend literally millions of dollars training someone to do something, and they still are not motivated to do it, right? So it's really about that mindset, and that's at the core of anyone's success, whether they're in at a lower level in an organization on the front lines or whether they're a CEO.
And I think it's so powerful what you said about being able to look at from different perspectives, because sometimes being able to remove yourself and look through someone else's eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you change the lens, you change the entire picture.
Absolutely.
So, we're recording these cameras here today. You can change the lens on the camera and then this entire view is totally different, right? The way you and I are sitting will look totally different. We haven't moved, but everything looks absolutely different.
Yeah, that's awesome. So there's so much talk about the Great Resignation. And on your YouTube channel, you discuss that quite a bit. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. The Great Resignation is, in my opinion, it's a symptom of a larger, deeper issue, right? And that is a failure at leadership for the last 30, 40, 50 years. The Great Resignation, people think it's about salary, it's about the pandemic and people getting stimulus packages and whatnot. And maybe that's a factor, but in reality, it's a much deeper issue. It's just a societal-wise issue. And the challenge is that people are just not respecting their employees for the last 40, 50 years. The challenge is at a leadership level, and that's the core of it. It's a failure at leadership. And I don't mean just leadership at the C-suite level, which is definitely a factor, but it's leadership within the organization as well, at the mid-level managers, at the VP level as well. Because people are not really investing in leadership development as much as they could, and you have these really poor leaders who are in places that they shouldn't be. And it's not just their fault. I mean, sometimes it is, right? But a lot of times they're being put in positions where they're managing a team and they have no business managing a team. How many times have you seen where, you have a team of salespeople and they're...
But I was just thinking.
Right? And like the number one sales guy, let's make you you're now the manager of this team.
And then their numbers go down.
The numbers go down. And morale goes down. That salesperson probably might hate their job now because they like sales. They don't like managing people, and they have no idea what that means to manage people. And you've taken your best salesperson off the
Why would you want to do that?
Right, exactly. And then you're blaming that person, like, oh, why aren't you a good leader? Well, that person has a skill set of being a great salesperson, not a great manager. You never taught them how to be a good manager, or how to be a good leader. Maybe they've never had a good model for being a good leader. And that's the other thing. You have this now, it's a generational thing now, right? It's generational. It's generational trauma at the leadership level, because you're seeing bad leaders and like, oh, well, that guy did it or that girl did it. Well, then I don't have to be that great a leader either. I can just be what they are, and then so far, so good, and it keeps going on that way.
I like that generational leadership. And it's looking at head coaches for NFL.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them never played professionally.
Right.
But they know how to coach.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up today?
Not really, other than just thank you so much for having me on here. And you're phenomenal. I've heard great things about you before I met you, and then I met Jen, even better. So thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you.